Well, good afternoon to you. It's Amstel Gold. Yes, we're back on the Classics Trail. This time the Ardennes Classics. Here it is, 2010, and there was a time when we thought we wouldn't be sitting here with you, showing you these pictures live from an extremely sunny Holland, from the Limburg province. We did think at some time that the helicopters and relay planes were not allowed to fly up due to the Icelandic ash cloud. But as it happens, the Dutch government has given special dispensation to allow the choppers to get up and relay these pictures back to you. It means that much to the Dutch authorities to have this race on the television. So, welcome to Amstel Gold. A number of riders, well, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but a number of riders deciding that they're not going to make it over because it's too much like hard work, and a lot of guys doing some heroic efforts to get up here into this race. Here is the situation. At 5 kilometers, a group of riders went away. They were Rafael Vals of Futon Serveto, Staf Sheerlinks of Omega Pharma Lotte, Peter Rolich of Milram, he's what, 36 or something now, he's pretty old, Seb Del Vos of Landbouw Credit, Thierry Hupon of Skill Shimano, Stephen Van Vuren of Top Spot. Stephen Van Vuren was formerly with Sean's team, by the way, Sean Kelly team, a very, very talented rider. Watch out for him in the future, Van Vuren. And Arno van Gruen of the Vakon Soleil team. He was second recently in Dwaas van Drenthe, so he's a good rider. And now another group of riders, Belmakers, you can see there, Preben van Hek, Belmakers of Landbouw Credit, Van Hek of Top Sport Vlaanderen, and Albert Timmer of Skill Shimano. They've gone away from the peloton. A monstrous amount of climbs, 31 I think it is this year in Amstel Gold. They've been over the Coburg for the first time, and that's when those three, Belmakers, Timmer and Van Hek, have made an effort to get out from the peloton and try and get away, maybe join up with those guys ahead. They've got a 5-minute advantage, so it's still going quite strong. They're going to have to really pull something out of the bag. The magnificent mustachioed Steve Koza of Garmin Transitions on the front doing the work now. They've got a decent team here today. Amazing how many teams have managed to put something decent together to come here, despite the fact that some guys couldn't come on planes. Some of the big names that aren't here, by the way, there is no Carlos Sastre from Cervelo Test Team, he couldn't make it. No Alejandro Valverde, no Samuel Sanchez, no Bradley Wiggins. All of those not being able to fly in from Spain, either Girona or Madrid or wherever they are. There's also no Vicente Reines, no Lewis from HTC Colombia. They haven't made it either, but some heroic drives by others. Javier Tondo, for example, drove 1,800 kilometers to get here from Girona. Right, we'll take a short break while we can. We'll try and pack him in early before the action comes. Welcome back, live pictures here. We've less than 60 kilometers to go now, and the peloton beginning to motor. They have 3 men who've gone up the road chasing the initial break. The break initially, remember, Vals, Sheerlink, Rolich, Del Vos, Hupon, Van Vuren and Van Gruen. They went away. They've now been chased, or there's 3 riders away from the peloton, not hardly chased. I think there's still quite about 4 minutes between them. Belmakers, Timmer and Preben van Hek have moved out ahead of the peloton. I'm not quite sure they'll stay out there. The peloton is beginning to move. Well, in the box next to me, my let me get this right, 1, 2, 3, my 4th co-commentator of the week, and I'm really pleased that we can welcome back to the box Graham Jones. Nice to see you again.
Yep, it's a pleasure to be back, and as long as I'm not 4th choice, it's just just hope it's just happened to work out that way.
It's just happened to work out that way. And Nicky Terpstra, the big Dutchman, has doubled his duties on the road with riding on the track as well. Not this year in the World Championships, but last year's World Championships on the track he rode. He's got lovely styles, good time trialist, good in this sort of situation. Graham, you've ridden this race, the Amstel Gold Race. It didn't, when you were riding, it didn't finish on the Coburg like it does now, but essentially it's the same race. And what is the nature of this race in terms of topography? If somebody's watching it for the first time, how would you describe it?
I would probably sort of say it's somewhere in between sort of Liège, Bastogne-Liège and the Tour of Flanders in sort of the level of difficulty of the climb, the length of the climbs, but it doesn't have the cobble climbs that the Flanders has. So, but it's somewhere in between in terms of terrain. It's lots of small small roads, it's right turns, left turns, lots of traffic calming. It really is a tricky race. It's one race where you do have to stay near the front.
It's, as you say, lots of twists and turns, isn't it? The race originally sort of trying to link up all the Amstel breweries in the Limburg region, and that is why it's got such essentially a wiggly profile. It's runs around all over the Limburg province, runs south and back up north again, then goes east, then west. It just does massive figure of 8 all the way back until the final loop. It's essentially a load of loops put together. And we finish on the Coburg.
And what it is it's a great race for spectators, because you'll find these spectators. I mean, it looks like there's masses of crowds all the way along the route, which of course there are. But some of those spectators will probably have seen the race 5, 6, 7 times, across the whole stage. You're just switching across and zooming across on the shortcuts just so they can catch it as much as they can.
A bit like Flanders in that sense. You can dash about, probably even better in this race than in Flanders. Big crowds though today, because the weather's been absolutely fabulous, as it has all week. Now let me remind you, on Eurosport 2 at the moment is the final stage of the Tour of Turkey. I hope you've set your recorders to do it, or your HD machines, whatever it is. If you haven't, go and do it now, because as they come onto the Bemleberg, these 3 riders ahead of the peloton, they are sandwiched between the peloton and the breakaway. We'll go through those in just a second. And Terp's just trying to come up to them. It hasn't got very far away from the peloton at the moment, though. If you want to catch the last stage of the Tour of Turkey, which has been really interesting racing, to be honest, in the last 3 or 4 days. It initially started off quite slowly, but it's really built into a cracking race. And a big stack yesterday when Bert Grapch went piling into the last corner, and there simply wasn't an exit line. And being the tester he is, grabbed a bit too much of the front brake, I think, and we ended up in the barriers. Now Terpstra continues to try and get away from the peloton. Look at the crowds here, and we've still got a whole load of climbs to come. We are on the Bemleberg with 59 kilometers to go. Then it's the Wolfsberg, the Luurberg, the Gulpenberg, Kreuzberg, Eisbosberg, Fromberg, Keutenberg, and then the Coburg again. So still a load to go. What's the nature of the hills here? What are they like?
They're sort of, well, they're a mixture. Some of the climbs are really, really very narrow, almost single track roads, and it's all about being placed at the front of the peloton as they hit the bottom of the climb. Nothing much happens. They can be vary from just 200 or 300 meters in length up to longer climbs, longer drags of a couple of kilometers. The Coburg's probably the most famous one, of course, and going up the climb 3 times, and obviously finishing at the top of it like it does. It's probably going to be the most important climb of the day. But it's just a succession. It's never ending. It's a change of rhythm. You're constantly changing gears and switching direction. And also, what we forget, I mean, it's not playing a part so much today, but the crosswinds can play a little bit of part in this race as well. But it's not really having much effect today.
What sort of riders does this suit? We've seen all sorts of riders triumph on here over the years. I mean, people who are good sprinter climbers, like the very first Belgian winner, for example, Guido Reybrouck, a very good sprinter, but also a good climber. We know that people like Frank Schleck have won here as well. It's clearly climbers and not sprinters. Is it an all-rounders course? I
think it is an all-rounders course. I mean, we've seen the sort of punchy sort of climbers, as in Cunego and that sort of rider, and Rebellin is obviously always very strong on an uphill finish. We've also seen previously, before it did finish at the top of the Coburg, even people like Jan Raas, who are capable of winning races, classics on their own, or in bunch sprints. And I mean, I can remember riding one year, even Bernardino, who very rarely ventured to this race, actually won it in quite a big group sprint.
This is your lead group. It's the first time we've seen the breakaway group here at any significant length of time. 3:24 is the gap that they've got at the moment. They are Rafael Valls of Voeten-Serveto, or was Rafael Valls of Voeten-Serveto.
I think he's the one that has dropped out.
We had news of one had dropped out, and we were taking bets on who it was. I'm pleased to say
you were correct.
I won a few quid there. That's good. Staff Shearlings of Omega Pharma Lotto, former Cofidis rider, of course, and I think he rode for Landau at one point. Peter Rolich of Milram in the blue and white. Seb Delfos of Landau Credit, right at the back there in the black, green, and yellow. Thierry Hubon from Skill Shimano. We've been used to seeing that, of course, if you've been watching Tour Turkey. That's a Skill Shimano jersey, but it isn't him. Steven van Vuren of Top Sport Vlaanderen and Arno van Groen of Vakon Soleil. This is the group that's trying to get across to them at the moment. Another 3 riders. Belbakker's at the front there in the green and white. Perben van Hek in the Top Sport Vlaanderen colours, which is the one in the middle. Dark shorts, white jersey. At the back, Skill Shimano's Albert Timmer. Good sprinter, Timmer. Good all-rounder. But you can see the nature of this road. They're not very wide, some of the roads here either, are they? Just sweeping backwards and forwards, and they dive down to the bottom of a hill and back up again.
Even when you go through the towns, the roads aren't very wide in Holland nowadays, with the amount of traffic calm in islands and bollards. I can remember watching I think it was the Giro, the Welter that's been through there the last few years, and thinking 200 riders, and I've just had my eyes shut sometimes.
Nice. What did you enjoy doing this race when you were riding it? Is it one you looked forward to? Did it play to your strength?
I think it probably did in the early, but I think I only rode it about 3 or 4 times in the sort of the first few years. So, but it's my sort of race really. You know, a few climbs, sort of climbs to get. Once you get near the front, and it's pretty easy to stay near the front in this sort of terrain if you're actually going well.
For those of you who are new to cycling and you haven't heard Graham's voice before, because we don't see him enough, to be honest, in the commentary box, but there we are. Graham, former ACCB amateur rider in Paris, the very famous club at that time. Not the club it was, I have to say, nowhere near it. And then moved on to Peugeot as a professional, where I think most people, and you probably may or may not agree, and looking back on it now, most pundits would agree that you were possibly over-raced.
Yes, no doubt about that, yeah.
Due to talent more than anything else, and that's something a lot of people will know out there. And then came back, rode domestically for a while. You worked for Wolver at one time, didn't you, in ANC?
Wolver, System U, the early days of System U, before it became the Cyril Guimard-led System U with Fignon. So yeah, a few teams in the last couple of years. So tend not to really be the proudest moments of my career, but yeah, I came back and rode in Britain for a couple of years, especially when it was actually at its heights with the city centre races and the Kellogg's Tour. And the Nissan started, of course, around that time.
And you're back on your bike now?
I try to ride my bike as much as I can, but I'm so busy travelling around the country and all over the place at the moment with various projects, mainly the Tour of Britain, of course, but it's difficult, and I love riding it when I can, yeah.
Good. 3 minutes and 23 seconds roughly, well 3 minutes and 20 seconds roughly to our breakaway riders, and there's a number of riders trying to get across to them. The peloton keen to sort of start to shut this one down. There's not too far to go, and they don't want to get caught out with these twists and turns all the time.
No, I can see this peloton now gradually winding up, and this gap will soon come down, and then I think we'll really start to see some action and racing, and the peloton split over the last 3 or 4 climbs, all coming really close together towards the end.
It's, then looking back, I think it was Van Vuren, Steve Van Vuren, rode with Sean Kelly's and Post team last year. It came from nowhere. In fact, he'd spent a lot of time in the United States of America, had super talent and super speed, but I was talking to Sean about him and said, tell us about this Van Vuren. He is a Belgian, but we don't know much about him. He said, no, he's been in America for many years with his family, started racing there, brought him back, put him on a bike, and he absolutely no idea of what to do and where to go. He'd done crit races in the United States, hadn't a clue about riding in the peloton, hadn't a clue about what he had to do to get food and where and how to do it, and my word has he learned. He learned so quickly. He turned in some very good performances at Top Sport Vlaanderen. Quite rightly went, yep, we'll have him, thanks very much.
Well, I think that's one of the things with cycling, you know, the level of abilities. You can have all sorts of different physiques and things that can come into play in cycling, and you can come into the sport at a later date if you've got the physical capabilities and the sort of intelligence that you can pick up and you know, and learn very quickly. And he's obviously got the physical abilities, and he's picked it up very quickly.
Rabobank, they controlled the pace early on. They never let the gap to the breakaway riders get beyond about 6.5 minutes, and very keen to keep it under control. Lampre also wanting to add their weight to this, and you can understand why. It looks like Saxo Bank as well, moving up towards the front and doing some work. Saxo Bank have the Schlecks. Frank, a former winner here, although he has been off on the ground. He had a bit of an eventful week this week, really,
yeah.
Frank Schleck.
Baby, wasn't it?
Baby, yeah, baby
Thursday.
daughter.
And fall, although fairly minor fall from what I can gather. So the Saxo Bank have been pretty active in the pursuit along with the Rabobanks earlier in the race. But one thing we're not seeing much of is the Katusha team, and we were talking about it earlier, that they've got such a strong team here, but whether they're keeping their powders dry or not, but I certainly think we might see one or two of their riders later on in the race.
Yep, I would assume they are keeping the powder dry. Just look at the run, listen to the rundown for Katusha. Sergei Ivanov, last year's winner, of course, is a winner of stages in the Tour as well. Sergei Klimov, we know he's really strong. Alexander Kolovnev, double medalist now in the World Championships, a winner of stages in Paris-Nice, super strong. Luca Mazzanti, an excellent all-round rider. Pipo Pozzato, we know he's coming back to better form. Joaquim Rodriguez, super for this sort of finish. Maxime Vemptom and Edvard Vorganov. So a really strong team. For my money, probably the strongest team here. Right, we'll take a short break. The gap is just a shade over 3 minutes. Welcome back. These are our live pictures from the Amstel Gold Race. It's the beginning of a big week here in the Ardennes. Amstel, then Flècherolles in the middle of the week. With Sean and myself, we hope. He's got back from Palma, and we're very pleased to have Graham Jones here, so capably standing in for Sean. And then the following weekend, Liège, Bastogne-Liège, of course. So now, talking about travelling, Sean's not been able to get back from Palma, or he's in a training camp. There's been a few bending of the rules, really, hasn't there, about starting places here on the Amstel Gold, purely because some of the riders just haven't been able to get here.
Well, yeah, there's that. I mean, we have seen from listening to one or two stories that some riders have made the effort and sort of, as it say, got in the car and drove the long distance. I think with the record we've seen is Thomas Ficus and Chris Horner, who drove 1,800 kilometres to get here to ride the race. But obviously some of the bigger riders, you know, like the Valverdes and that, were not going to sit in a car all the way to the Netherlands to ride the race. But yeah, one or two teams are very much short on riders, and I think one is actually breaking the regulations, really. They've been given special permission to ride with just 3 riders. You have to have a minimum of 5, and that's the Case d'Arpagne team, and that's obviously understandable, having to come from Spain.
Well, I'm not sure about all this. You know, it's these riders who haven't been able to make it. Alejandro Valverde, Samuel Sanchez, Carlos Sastre. Obviously, they've got other things they're concentrating on, I'm sure, and they're quite happy with the day off. But as you say, some of Javier Tondo, for example, 1,800 kilometres driving by himself.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing to think of is that Valverde, maybe, I can understand maybe some of the smaller teams sort of saying, oh, we'll just give 5 rides. It's not worth all that effort and the tiredness of the long journey. But probably Valverde might have come in this race as a possible race favourite. So,
exactly,
you know, you wonder whether it might have been worth the effort for him.
A lot of them who haven't been. Look at the pace. Whee, little bit close. A little bit close coming into the village here. Look all the way around the usual furniture
on the pavement and all sorts, and parked cars and often come, you know, you see in Holland quite a bit. It is quite a you know, as much as it is a cycling nation with the cycle paths, you can't race on the cycle paths all the time, and they do have a lot of obstacles on the roads.
Absolutely, this is one of the main things about racing in Holland. Obstacles are everywhere. So the riders that we know aren't here, who couldn't make it: Valverde, Alejandro Valverde, Samuel Sanchez, Carlos Sastre not arriving, Bradley Wiggins not being able to get from Girona, and Seti Reines, so Lewis from HTC Columbia, they've not been able to make it today either. But amazing stories of some of them just turning up from such a long way away. Actually, I was reading in the press somewhere today that the British, ex-England footballer, striker, Gary Lineker, managed to get all the way back from Tenerife to present his TV programme Match of the Day today. It's 2,053 miles, which that's 3,000 kilometres.
Yeah, must have flown from somewhere though, mustn't he? Must have maybe somewhere. He must have got into Spain at least, I would have think, probably before the volcanic ash had descended that far south in Europe. So
and then got a train or a car or whatever. Good stuff.
The thing is with the volcanic ashes, it's an ongoing thing. We just don't know when it's going to stop. It's like it's going to be flights are suspended till 7 o'clock this morning, then it's put back to the afternoon, and I think we're now into tomorrow before we'll know any more.
Yep, extraordinary. I was amazed to hear that the last time on historical record that it erupted was in, I think, 1824. Something like that, and it erupted for 2 years. So
I was just thinking about, I've got a couple of friends who are also out there in Spain on training camps and obviously having a bit of time off work. What a great excuse to carry on your training in Spain.
I really can't come back. Yeah. Although I heard something on the news the other day, I think it was a choir, school choir, they were on tour in China, and the closest date that the airline could give them to return them, and I think it was about 40 of them, was the 6th of May. That's a tremendous amount of time. I think it was something like that. Nice to see Radio Shack coming towards the front now with Chris Horner, another man, as you say, Horner. I think that was Horner and Vickers actually, both coming towards the front.
1,800 kilometres drive to get here, and they're at the front.
Absolutely. But to be honest, it's an interesting point that back in the day,
the good old days,
right, when you were riding, when Sean was riding and so on, it was commonplace to have to drive, not this far, but commonplace to have to drive long distances by yourself or with one or two of your teammates.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like there weren't any planes around in those days, but the infrastructure for the cheaper airlines and you know, the more flights going to smaller towns and smaller airports all over Europe makes it much more easy and cheaper for riders to fly around everywhere now. But yeah, in those days you would have probably driven people, you know, might have driven from the south of France or Spain to get to a race like this.
I think also the teams were less organised, the budgets were smaller, you know, you would just, in some teams you were basically just given your programme and say turn up. Arrive.
Yeah, and that's to a certain extent why you saw a squad that rode the classics, usually in April, rode nearly all of the same classics with give or take one or two changes amongst the team, but generally it was the same sort of riders that rode all the way through the classics in April. Because they would have based themselves mainly in Belgium.
Yeah. One man also based in Belgium today, and not a Belgian, is Sergei Ivanov. Ivanov has been in reasonable form at the beginning of the year, been looking to do a double, and his whole squad around him. Katusha, there must be, what, 4 riders in there, I reckon, who could win today. Ivanov, Kolobnev, Pozzato, and Joaquim Rodriguez all have good chance.
Just looking, Cadel Evans there as well, moving towards the front of the bunch.
Again,
another rider who rides, you know, sort of, I was quite pleased that he did actually come and win the World Championships. Gets a lot of criticism for not being aggressive enough, but, you know, he's another rider who does ride other races and, you know, and performs in these other races, just not there just to participate and sort of be one of the number.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a bike, he wants to ride a bike and race a bike, and I'm very pleased for him. As a lot of people know from my particular outbursts during the World Championships. Jakob Fuglsang is the rider on the front for Saxo Bank, and they're sharing the work with Lampre here. And look at them all over
just going round a lamppost and things. It just well, it really does make bike racing in this country look a lot easier, actually.
Yes.
It's almost an obstacle course. Apart from the 31 climbs they've got to do, there's obstacles as well.
There's a bit of a lull before the storm, really. There's a couple of big climbs. Well, they come in quick succession shortly as we get into the Wolfsberg, the Luhrberg, the Gulpenberg, Kreuzberg, Eisebosberg, Fromberg, Keutenberg, and then onto the Coburg again. So they all come in quite quick succession within the last 40 kilometres. There's those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 climbs. So no respite, and that's of course why they want to bring it back, and they're doing a good job really. 1:45 is the break. They're going to catch them fairly shortly.
Yeah, it's just coming down all the time, and Saxo Bank or Rabobank, pressure on the front of the peloton, and I expect probably we'll see this breakaway back, something in the region of about 25 kilometres to go, and then we'll start to see some attacking from the favourites. Oh, again. It is. It's almost, if there's ever such a thing, we have golf and crazy golf. It's almost a sort of crazy cycling as well.
Yeah, when they get really going for it. So, of the favourites in the list today, you're pleased to join us wherever you are watching around Europe. There's people watching internationally as well as on British Eurosport back in the Okay, you can, any questions, any comments with the spokesman, is the Twitter feed, spokesman as opposed to man, and it's cycling.eurosport@yahoo.com. Regular email address, regular Twitter feed, and there's also Eurosport UK TV Twitter feed as well. There's Filippo Pozzato in the Italian champions jersey next to Andy Schleck in the Luxembourg champions jersey up towards Pozzato. We wanted to do something today, but maybe a case of too many Chiefs in that team, I'm not quite sure. You can see Sergei Ivanov just at the bottom of your screen. He might pop on in a minute in the Russian champions jersey for Katusha as well. Let's look down at the teams then while we can before it all really kicks off, Brent. Katusha, we've just spoken about there very briefly. We've got Ivanov, Klimov, Kolobnev, Mazanti, Pozzato, Rodriguez, Van Tom and Volganov. That is a super strong squad, and it looks to me as though they could really pull something off today. With 41 kilometers to go, Sergei Ivanov, the defending champion here, the race winner last year, will want his team to start working together, although they don't tend to work together as much of a unit as maybe some of the others. They're very clever at letting other teams do a lot of the work. Your assessment of that run down of that team?
Well, as we said earlier, it's a fantastic team, and you have to think that Pozzato is very much his own man and probably will be looking at sort of riding for himself. But Ivanov, of course, last year's winner of the race, has got to be you would think their main protected man, and he's the sort of guy that once he gets a gap, it's very hard to close down. So it's obviously a very strong team.
AG2R Le Mondial, Elmiger, Bouet, Champion, he might be up there a little bit later. Nicolas Roche, also riding here for AG2R Le Mondial. We were talking about him before we came on air. Possible here, or maybe this year, we don't know what sort of form he's in. He started the year pretty well. We haven't seen him up towards the front yet. I'm sure we will. He might be hiding himself. This is the sort of race that Nicolas Roche could win at once. Yeah,
I certainly think that there's a big race, or maybe many more. But I do think that there's a big race victory in Nicolas Roche over the next few years. Whether it's a stage in the Tour, he went very close before. But I think he's got a great future.
Astana, probably the best hopes in Astana is Maxi Miglinski. Andre Grifko is here as well. Grifko, as they're on the Wolfsburg, with 42 kilometers to go. Our breakaway riders here on the Wolfsburg, 1:12 over the peloton, which is coming up very shortly. Soon, when all the cars and the neutral service car starts to pass them, they'll know in their hearts that it is all over with less than 30 seconds between them. Andre Grifko, the best of the Astana prospects, along with Maxim Miglinski. And happy birthday, Maxim, 29 today, Miglinski. He's going well this season, Miglinski.
Yeah, I think he's the only birthday rider we've got, isn't it, today? I think
so.
I did catch that somewhere.
Not much hope, I'm afraid, for Case d'Espagna. They've got Emanuele Viti, winner of the stage in the Volta Espana a number of years ago, beating Nicolas Roche, if I remember correctly. Vincenzi Garcia Costa, great rider, love him to bits, but again, not the course for him today. And David Lopez, well, he's probably got the best chance of anybody in Case d'Espana. Euskaltel, they're without their leader as well. We'll just mention Case d'Espana, no Valverde. Euskaltel without Samuel Sanchez, right? Bit of a problem for one of the Francis de Jeux riders. In the wrong gear to start with as well, and the car, well, that's because the car couldn't get up to him. He might mysteriously have a mechanical problem in a minute. Having said that, though, they can't get past. He's going to have to go. Back on the front.
Fuji, Lampreys, all the same teams, isn't it?
Yep.
That are keeping the pace high, but that gap's it's coming down all the time. Less than a minute now.
Well, the Euskaltel riders needing a bit of a change. It's Velasco.
A bit of problem.
Yeah, and he's got a teammate with him as well. So Velasco, clearly one of their nominated favourites, is Aitor Galdos, the second rider there.
Either that or his teammate's just glad to hand over his wheel and sort of say, I've had enough for today.
Exactly, that could be the case. Let's look at the riders then who are on the teams who are on the front and why they're there in terms of rundowns. Rabobank, unsurprisingly, are there because it is a Dutch team and this is the Dutch Classic. Lars Boom and Oscar Freire Both have an outside chance, but I think this is a very strong team as well.
It is, yeah.
Last boom, Oscar Freire, Robert Gesink, he was, what, third last year, I think. Langeveld, another good rider. Paul Martens, very strong. Nick Noyens, slip away, very, very good at getting in the right place just before he needs to go. He just sneaks up there, does Nick Noyens. Bram Tankink and Lawrence Tendam, another very good rider. Doesn't get quite the praise he should do, actually, Lawrence Tendam, I think. But they want to show something here. They are a Dutch team, and they really want to go for something at the today. Best hope, probably just Gesink, although Freire is aiming at this one.
Freire, yeah, I just think that hill might just be a little bit too hard for him as a, you know, I mean, we do know that he gets over these smaller climbs, and that's how he often wins a lot of his stages in races. The climb near the finish, he can get over it, whereas some of the other sprinters can't. But I just think finish at the top of the Coburg, I'd be surprised. Would we expect to see more people like Gesink or Lars Boom up there? But it's a good team, and it's a home team, so.
Yep. Lampre, the other guys riding on the front. Mathieu Bono, Damiano Cunego, Francisco Gavazzi, David Loosely, Manuel Mori, Daniele Petriepoli, Daniele Rigi, and Alessandro Spezialetti. Spezialetti, well, we're bound to see him doing some work up front. Look at the way they're pushing it along here, Lampre. They really want this one to bring it back. Cunego, the man of the moment for this. Although don't discount Daniele Rigi, he's fairly good in this sort of finish. Strong, but not as strong as maybe Katusha or Saxo Bank or Rabobank. Keen to shut it down though. Radio Shack, got a couple of men up here as well. Just cannily sitting in here.
Well, Chris Horner's been in good form, hasn't he, recently?
Ooh, yes. Top quality victory in the Tour of the Basque Country. Sticking it to Alejandro Valverde, as they'd say in America. Right, we'll take another short commercial break. The gap is well under a minute now for these escape men. "36 kilometers to go. The break is almost over now as they get reeled back in, and desperate to get the car up to him is Lawrence Tendam from Rabobank. Tendam off the back.
I think he's just come for some drink. I think he's after some bottles, possibly. Take up to the riders or his teammates.
It's a difficult race to do this, isn't it? No, we've got a problem. Here we are.
Adjust the brake while I get a bit of a push up the climb.
The old magic spanner, as I call it. 16 seconds for our breakaway men. They went out at 5 kilometers. They've stayed out all the time. We're under 35 kilometers to go. Rafael Valls was the first man to drop off the back from Futon Cerveto. Staff Shearlinks is driving along at the front of the moment for Omega Pharma Lotto in the white jersey. Rolich of Milram, Delphos of Landbouw Credit, Hupon of Skill, who I think is a very good rider actually, Thierry Hupon from Skill, Steven van Vuren from Topsport Vlaanderen, and Arno van Groen from Vakon Soleil. Another team who'll really want to do something.
Yeah, do you know, it's just funny you should mention that, but they've ridden the Tour of Britain for the last few years, and really, really nice team to deal with. And you know, they always race, they're always present in the breakaways, and you know, they don't sort of come and just make up the numbers. Really good team.
Matteo Carrera, a very good all-rounder actually. Arno van Groen, we know, is in the breakaway already. Johnny Hugeland, who sort of ignited the Vuelta a España last year, then had a big dig at the World Championships when representing Holland. Sergei Lagutin, he came from the sort of Mr. Bookmaker and Palman's tradition. Very good all-rounder. Bjorn Leukemans, who's in super form, although I've got to say he's been a bit of a sitter on in the last couple of races, but hey, it's got him up to where he needed to be.
Got to be there, haven't you?
Yep, that's right. Marco Mercato, Walter Pols, and Rob Roig riding for Vakon Soleil today. Saxo Bank, Andy Frank Schleck are both there. Andre Steensten's doing very well at the moment. He's in good shape, and maybe he'll be able to pull them up. Radio Shack is Chris Horner, Milram. The return of Fabian Wegmann here. I don't expect him to be up towards the finish. He had a busted collarbone. Getting back to race fitness is something a little bit different. What about HTC Columbia? No Reines, no Lewis. They have got Martin and Peter Velits. Marco Pinotti we know is going well, and in this sort of finish climb could be okay. I don't know where he is at the moment. Maxime Montfort in good condition. Tony Martin and Albacini. That's a good team.
Yes.
Despite the fact they've got 2 missing.
It's a reduced squad, but yeah, it's still a very good team, isn't it?
Omega Pharma, Lotto, Christophe Brandt, Mario Arts, and Philippe Gilbert all in with a chance, as well as Jean-Christophe Perrault. Peter Rolich, Race Radio informs us, going off the back of that group, but he's only got 18 seconds to fall back into line with the rest of them. We were just on a commercial break a little bit earlier, and Graham, you were commenting that when this all comes back together, it's all going to explode.
I think, yeah, the elastic's going to break. We've still got all these successive climbs, one after the other, and they really do come thick and fast in this last 30 kilometres or so. So I do expect the elastic to break, and it should be non-stop action all the way to the finish. Still a big bunch at the moment, probably 100 riders still around. I'd expect to. Yeah, I think must be about 100 riders still in that peloton.
Yeah. Different type of rider you get here to the Cobble Classics for Roubaix, especially in Flanders, where you get some of the same ones, but they do tend to target different races.
Yeah, I think there are riders who can do well in this race who do ride well in Flanders, but as you get nowadays, that riders do tend to concentrate more and not sort of ride every one of the classics, and yeah, they tend to target just a period of maybe 1 week and then go away, have a bit of a rest, and then come back. So, but yeah, no doubt there are riders in Flanders who could do well in this race.
In your day when you were racing, did you have, well, you clearly did, but did you have a program generally in the peloton where when you were riding the classics, you rode all the classics?
Yeah, in the first 2 or 3 years, especially with Peugeot, yeah, it was basically based in Belgium, and you rode all of them subject to your health, and you're not getting ill, of course, that time of the year where everybody's prone to coughs and colds. But yeah, it's usually the same small squad of riders.
Did you look forward to one over another in the classics? Did you look forward to that season, or did you want to wait for the bigger stage race? I was
always much better in the stage races. I preferred that sort of being away, being looked after, and I think stage races always suited me. But there's always something special about the classics that you'd read about as a kid, and just taking part of them in them sometimes was just great.
We saw the World Championship jersey of Cadel Evans. That's Oscar Freire in the orange and the blue of Rabobank, making his way up at the outside of the peloton, wanting to get to the front and out of trouble. And as you said, Graham, the best thing is to be in the right place at the bottom of each climb.
Yep, and I think certainly what Friday was making a special effort there to just move up. As I say, a lot of action doesn't really happen on the climbs. It's getting to the bottom of the climb, being in the right position, and it's over the top on the descents and on the small roads that you tend to see the splits.
His director sportive, Eric Decker, wanting to see him ride the Tour of Flanders, but basically he said that Freire has it in his head that he can do much better here at Amstel Gold than ever in the Tour of Flanders. And he's targeted again this year, 3 times a winner in Milan-San Remo, 3 times a world champion. This one's eluded him. Has he got a chance?
I think he's got a chance. I still think it might just be a little bit more, it might suit more of the Cunego type riders as we've seen in the past. I wouldn't rule it out with him. He's such a class rider, and you know, can always pop up. And he's probably, for me, he is still the best sprinter at the end of a long race, a long, tough race.
Saw that in Milan-San Remo.
Yeah.
By far the best sprinter.
And I still wouldn't mind betting he's got another world championship in him.
That's incredible. It's incredible, really, when you think about it, isn't it? Still working on the front then are Saxo Bank. Jonas Jorgensen, André Steensen, Didier Laurent, Jacob Fuglsang, Andy and Frank Schleck, Nicky Sorensen, and Lensford in the peloton here today. They're really driving this one along now. Lamprey have been contributing to it, but they've got the bit between their teeth here. Frank Schleck, a winner, 2006 I think he was, a winner.
Yeah, we're just coming up to the Gulpenberg, which, if I remember rightly, is I think one of the narrow climbs. So that's maybe why that they're really putting their head down, and people want to be at the front and in the right place.
string them up before they get there. That's the thing. I'd like another win for Luxembourg with the Schleck brothers. Andy and Frank, Nicky Sorensen, by the way, in the front now doing the work in the black and white of Saxo Bank. The Schlecks will be looking to something today. Andy wearing the Luxembourg Road Race Champions jersey. Frank just in the Saxo Bank colours. They Luxembourg had that win through Frank Schleck in 2006. Brings them up with which is amazing, isn't it? That wins. This is one of the few classics that the Italians haven't really dominated over the years. Damiano Cunego took a win in 2008.
Yeah, they've all come fairly recently. Again, I think this is one that goes back to the old traditions of cycling, that the Italians very rarely in the before the days of the Pro Tour, or the Pro Tour, that they ventured north for these sort of classics. They tended to stay at home, but since the Pro Tour, probably a little bit before that, they did start to make more inroads into the Northern Classics, and you see most of those wins by the Italians have come over the recent years.
Yeah, there's the last one being 2008 for Cunego, but going back, De Luca, Rebalin, Bartoli, and one here, and that is all.
They've only won 5 in total.
Yep, and
I
that's
think
all.
Zanini was the first, was he?
I'm not sure actually.
Zanini, 96.
Yes, that's right, Stefano Zanini. I tell you what, I'm sure the Italians would claim that Mauro Gianetti was an Italian-speaking Swiss a year before, and might well have qualified for that. But the winners of Amstel Gold started way back in 1966. John Stablitzky was the winner.
I think I've read somewhere recently in one of the magazines that he's quoted it as saying it's the worst organised race that he'd ever ridden. So, really? But I think that was going back to the idea that it joined up all these breweries, and it ended up being a lot longer than they actually thought it should be. And, it was a bit chaotic, but apparently the prize money was fantastic, so that's why they all rode.
And you could still win your weight in Amstel beer. It's not much great. I mean, what you really need to be is like a 17-stone munter.
Talking that, we haven't mentioned this so-called alcohol test.
Oh yes, tell me about the alcohol test.
It's something I picked up earlier, that the police actually did alcohol tests on some of the riders this morning, which I find really strange. So no doubt, I think it was going out on one or two riders' Twitters. So I'll be interested to see more and hear more about that over the next few days, and what the idea is behind it. And of course, it's ironic that it being sponsored by Amstel Beer, the race. So
exactly, yeah. You can still win your weight, as you say, in Amstel. You'd want to sort of get you and your mates on it, on the scales, really.
And you want it in cans rather than bottles to get more alcohol.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Suppose,
but unfortunately, they have them in bottles, don't they? Crates of bottles, you get more beer, yeah. The lighter weight packaging. Well thought. Well thought. You think, I like your thoughts. 29 kilometres to go, then they are on the Golpenberg. Trying to keep it strung out. The pace is nice and high. A few gulps from some of the riders at the back as well, suffering here. But it's Saxo Bank in the black and white, the orange and blue of Rabobank, and just one or two sprinkling of other riders, including the bright turquoise of Astana. Not many Katusha riders up the front, except for Sergei Ivanov, who you can see in the Russian Champions
Schleck there, is that in third? Second,
yep,
third,
that's right. Schleck in second spot behind Nicky Sorensen, who's driving on in the orange glasses for Saxo Bank. The next Saxo Bank rider back is Frank Schleck. Nick Noyens here at the front for Rabobank.
Ivanov's well placed.
Very well placed. For the Omega Pharma squad on the far right-hand side of your screen, it looks like just a look down. Christoph Brand, I think. No, Jürgen van den Broek is what I meant to say, sorry. Over the top. But you can see exactly what...
this is where it hams, you see. The bunch is still actually together, but once they've turned the right, those riders are now doing 40, 50 kilometres an hour, whereas the guys at the back are still doing 15 kilometres.
Well, that's very interesting to see. That is Joaquim Rodriguez of Katusha here at the back of this group. That doesn't look good for Rodriguez. Maybe he still thinks he's keeping his powder dry. He was ever so good in the Tour of the Basque Country. Very interesting to see him right the way back at the back of this line. There's nobody there to help him. They've got such a strong squad. Katusha that it's every one man for himself, I should imagine, if you're off the back. Right, we'll take a short break with Nicky Sorensen doing the driving on the front for Saxon. Welcome back. While you were away on a break, Sylvain Chavanel has had a puncture. He'll need to get back pretty quickly. The BMC riders, including world champion Cadel Evans, up towards the front. Rabobank now pushing it along. They've got big chances today. They want to do something. Here is Chavanel getting a spare tyre from one of his teammates.
Wrong side of the road, but under the circumstances, you change the wheel wherever you can. But normally you have to change on the. Always have to change wheels on the side of the convoy.
Yeah, but with the amount of furniture and stuff that's around here, it doesn't make any difference, really. I mean, they could be all over the road, can't they?
Yes, I say needs must.
Ten Dam's obviously got back because he's up at the front now. Lawrence Ten Dam slips into the line. Very good hard work. And the Luxembourgish shirt jersey is that of Andy Schleck, line 1, 2, 3, 4 back, sitting behind 5 back. So he's sitting behind the train of Rabobank, really driving it on now. Jürgen van den Broek looking after Philippe Gilbert there in the blue, light blue helmet with the white jersey of Omega Pharma. Gilbert we haven't mentioned at all. Another really strong candidate for today.
Yeah, I think they're just about to, this coming up to the Kreuzberg, so the riders really putting pressure on making sure that they've got their favourites right up near the front before this climb. This is where it's all going to go.
Yeah, this is a difficult one. Look at the way there's a lot of jostling. There's nerves here, I think. Quite a number of nerves. Nervy riders. Oh, look at the world champion Cadel Evans doing a lot of work on the front here. Wanting to be in the right position for his team. Carsten Kroon, of course, second last year, racing in BMC colours this year. I would imagine that that's who he's working for. He's clearly doing the work. I do like this about Cadel Evans. He doesn't bother him, does it, that he's have they gone around the back of the building?
I don't know where. They either know a shortcut or they've they got caught out there.
I think because a number of riders got caught out and gone completely the wrong direction around the back of the buildings, and there's a crash now here. AG2R Le Mondial on the floor.
Mandry.
Oh, René Mandry. The Estonian.
He doesn't look too happy, does he?
No, that doesn't look good at all. Oh dear.
Hopefully the convoy's slowed down enough now for everybody to get around. They'll be aware of that, but just right on that corner, that could have been really dangerous and nasty.
Paramedics in attendance very quickly indeed. Cadel Evans absolutely stringing them out. He doesn't shirk the work, does he, Cadel Evans, even though he's world champion?
No, and you know that if the pace, if Cadel Evans is on the front and he's put his head down, you know, this is going to string them out before the climb. So we expect to see some sort of selection over the top of this climb, I would think.
Don't see how we went down, but we do see him on the floor. Never good if you look across, if you're a teammate and look across and see one of your friends on the floor. That's not a nice feeling, is it?
No, I mean, sometimes it looks worse than you think because they've actually just winded themselves, and you just want to stay still. You don't want to move, but he looks as though he might be okay.
Evans in the middle in the World Championship jersey for BMC, this new Swiss-American team, really. Gasparotto comes to the front for Astana. Very good rider, Gasparotto. Seems to have more freedom, certainly having more success. Now he's moved to Astana. He's moved away from established teams in Italy. Different atmosphere, maybe bringing him back to form. Good all-round rider. We were mentioning him yesterday, actually, saying that he and Visconti are similar type of riders. Visconti probably slightly more aggressive, actually, than Gasparotto. Andy Schleck in the Luxembourg Champions jersey now moves to the front.
Yeah, he's not really forcing the paces.
No.
He's more he's being a little bit cautious at the moment, just covering all the moves.
Here we go. It's Vacon Soleil. You're just pushing on the pace a little bit.
So I was just thinking the same thing. Mercato. Good little attack. This is when it goes over the top. A little bit of plateau before another descent, and we should really sort of see that bunch spreading out now.
That's a classy move by Mercato, because it's the pace was being controlled by Andy Schleck, and it's a fairly narrow climb. Means, you know, actually chasing down is a little bit more difficult.
Frank Schleck's looking Andy Schleck's looking very comfortable, isn't he? Just covering the moves, not just not wanting to get caught out at the moment. Again, they're all looking at each other, so there's not been really the sort of split that he was possibly expecting. Still 4 climbs to go, of course, including the final climb of the Coburg.
We've had a Twitter feed coming in saying, thanks very much from The Swordsman, saying that the riders I read on Twitter said it was the vehicle drivers who were out there. That makes sense. There we go. Thanks for that. It is spokesmen. Twitter feed if you want to put something on for questions or comments. Thank you very much.
Do you know that is an interesting point though about that team managers or drivers and anybody who's associated with the race, because I know what it's like with these sort of races. You do tend to get the people on the races have a few beers in the evening, and we all know that you know, drinks the night before. That's badly parked car around that corner. That's incredible for a race of this stature. But yeah, people do tend to have a drink or two the night before, and you can still have high levels of alcohol the following morning. And you know, it's maybe it's the police and the organisation covering themselves, because if anything should happen.
These cars all over the road. My word. And it is a feature of Dutch racing, though, that things are all over the place.
That's particularly bad, though. That is not good whatsoever.
Oh, that's awful. That really is very poor. And there might be some riders a bit further down the peloton that get caught out a little bit there. We shall see. Marco Mercato with 20 kilometres to go. Huge ask for this man. He's, I doubt very much if he's going to stay out there.
No, I don't think
vested interests.
No, I was just thinking back to that car. I mean, we did see the marshal there with the red flag just sort of waving, but he was almost really too late being around the corner. Hopefully they maybe have had somebody before the corner as well, but looking at the reaction of the rider, I think it was totally unexpected. So that's very poor really for a sort of a classic of this sort of level.
Yeah. Onto the Bosvig. Mercato getting the plaudits of the crowd. It's fantastic, isn't it? Look at these spectators. This is terrific. I haven't seen this big a crowd at Amstel Gold for a while, but the weather's been superb.
And we do know that the Dutch do like their cycling, don't they? So, and as I say, it's a perfect race for you, for even only British fans in the future to go out and watch the classic. It is a great one to go out and watch.
There used to be a lot of Belgians here as well. It's Andy Schleck on the push now.
It's a bit more serious.
That's a lot more serious. He's going to come up to the wheel of Mercato very quickly indeed at this rate, and nobody really reacting at the moment, or cannot react at the moment. Super climber that he is, Andy Schleck, second in the Tour de France, Luxembourg national champion. Probably the more talented of the two Schleck brothers, although most people have been saying that for a long time now. Up to the rear wheel of Marco Mercato from Vacances he goes. Unsurprisingly to get up there, but I am surprised that no other riders have decided to go.
Oh, there's somebody there a little bit closer. Yeah, maybe Frank's just overjudged it a little bit. I could see a rider that was fairly close behind the motorbike.
Okay, well, let's see who's doing the following. It looks like it looks like Gilbert.
I think I was just to say it looks like Gilbert. Maybe I think there's a Lamprey rider there, whether it's Conego or not.
One of the really big favourites, Andy Schleck, goes first. The Schlecks have got the advantage, of course, that they can soften people up by, if Andy decides to keep going and keep going and keep going and attacking, all the big favourites will have to go with him because he's such a talented rider. He could very well just ride away and win, giving Frank a little bit softer ride.
Yeah, and so it does look like Conego who's there.
Looks like Frank at the back, actually. You would suggest there's another
Vacances.
I would suggest that's Leukemans, or could be Hugeland, but I can't see yet. But Leukemans is in such good condition at the moment, you would have expected him to be the man.
And there's certainly been some damage done, though, by that attack by Andy Schleck.
As you'd expect. What would be going through your mind if you were riding up towards the front and Andy went off the front, Graham? Would you say, well, let's see how quickly he gets away, or shall we just jump on him?
I don't think you let him get away. I think you've got to actually be jumped on him straight away. I know we can see that these riders, you know, obviously the strong men of the race now reacted quickly. It did look like he was going well clear, didn't he? But it's probably a little bit tougher climb than maybe he anticipated, and he couldn't open the gap. But we've got a selection, that's the main thing.
Yep, it's Kruziger coming across the gap. Nibali looks like the other rider from Liquigas here in the lime green. At the back here is Nibali, and then at the front is Kruziger. No Rabobanks, I thought. Didn't see any Rabobanks at the front at all. Is that Hesink is going across there? I'm not quite sure. And one of the Katusha riders now has made a move. It's not Pozzato, and it's not, I don't think, it looks like Kolobnev to me. Here for Katusha. Looks like those ultra sculpted thighs and calves of Alexander Kolobnev. It might not be, but we'll just have to check. Very, very difficult to tell who's who on this particular ascent and descent because the road is so narrow. But I can tell you, Vincenzo Nibali is the man at the back here for Liquigas. The other Liquigas rider in the lime green is Roman Kruziger. It is Alexander Kolobnev from Russia in the Katusha outfit, second from last. Frantic chase on then by some of the other riders with 17 kilometers to go. The attack instigated by Andy Schleck and followed up, it looks to be, by Philippe Gilbert from the Omega Pharma Lotto squad. Here we are then. It's Andy Schleck in this group. I think Frank Schleck is also in this group as well. I'd be very surprised if he wasn't. Looks like they're going to get back on here.
Yeah, the gap's not as big as I thought.
Nope.
Maybe the descent made it look a little bit bigger than it originally looked, so we may see a little bit more of a regroupment here and a fresh attack. Just coming up to, we've got the Fromberg next.
There is Frank Schleck at the front now. That looks like Hugeland. We'll just see in a second. Two of the riders from Bacon Soleil pushing on again.
Yeah, they're looking at each other behind there. They've not made the actual selection that they thought that we thought might have happened. So we expect to see more attacks on the next climb.
Fromberg.
I think they're on it already.
Here they come. We're really running into the last 16 kilometers now, as you can see on the left-hand side, and Andy Schleck pushing again hard. He's got Roman Kruziger, the Czech rider, behind him. He's looking in awesome form, actually, Kruziger. That's the best I've seen him looking in response to something for a long time. Then Philippe Gilbert in the white jersey, blue helmet of Omega Pharma. Who else have we got in this group here? Alexander Kolobnev, Frank Schleck now doing the softening up job in the front. Gilbert covering everything. The Lampre rider looks an awful lot, style looks a little bit like Kunigo. I'm not sure it is though, actually. Need to double check that and get a clear shot. Yes, it is.
Sure
yes, it is.
I think he had a different colour bike than everybody else as well.
Yes, it is. Damiano Kunigo, winner of the Giro back in 2004, double winner of the Tour of Lombardy. Is he double winner or has he won 3 times? I can't remember. Right at the back here, it's Benoit Vaugrenat of Francis de Jeux. There goes Kunigo now.
I think really having it's all a little bit hesitant at the moment. They're all looking at each other. The Schlecks have obviously done the damage. Gilbert's looking very strong.
He's looking strong, but I'm a little bit concerned that he wants this one. He knows there's a number of riders who aren't here. Samuel Sanchez, Alejandro Valverde, people who could have challenged for today. Not only a couple, obviously out of the way, but he's getting a bit of a softening up, I think. There's 2 or 3 riders giving him a duffing over. But the Schlecks in particular. Kolobnev looking good. Very good.
Very small gear as well, that looks at him.
Yep. Tends to turn it. It's fairly small gear. Hesink is having a bit of problems here, trying to follow. Third last year. He's the man who instigated the attack last year, if you remember, on the last hill of the day. At the moment, he's just behind Eduard Voganov. Well, this is interesting. Kuhnigo, Frank Schleck, Philippe Gilbert at the front. There's one more rider in this group, and I can't see who it is at the moment. Is it Andy Schleck? No. It's one of the Vacances Soleil boys, is it? It's difficult to tell, actually. No, it's sorry, it's Kolobnev. 4 riders. Well, that's a great attack by Damiano Cunego, and Philippe Gilbert responded to it. Frank Schleck, who's got up onto the wheel in the black and white of Saxe Bank. And then right at the back, Alexander Kolobnev of Russia. Kolobnev is due a really big win, in my opinion. I've never made a secret of the fact that I think he's a great rider. And I think he's due a big one too. He's always there or thereabouts, and certainly not the sort of rider you'd let get away. And the chase down work is being done by Evans.
He's still there after all that sort of lead out before that other climb. He's still there and doing a lot of work to close this down, and I think this gap is probably not going to go anywhere. I still think there's a little bit of hesitancy in that front group. It's not quite the right mix.
Yes, very good job getting 2 riders in there. Looks like Garmin Transitions have got a rider back up there.
Still there.
Moving up. Don't discount any of these.
Oscar's still there as well, by the looks of it.
Oscar Freire there in the middle of your shot, in the blue and orange. Don't discount anybody at this particular juncture. I know that the attacks are going away at the moment, but all these riders who are coming back, it's going to be the Coburg that really is the defining moment. Look, they've eased up to the front here, Graham.
Yeah, I think it's all going to be on somebody who might, as we've seen in the past, somebody who just sneaks away in the last few kilometres before the Coburg and then maybe hangs on. Or we might see quite a large group come into Valkenburg at the bottom of the climb to Coburg. So we could yet see, well, not quite a bunch sprint, but a group of 25, 30 riders hit the final climb.
Oh, one word.
Ivanov, I think, wasn't it?
Looked like it, doing a bit of cyclocross, just about keeping his bike going there. Sergei Ivanov looks over his shoulder. Winner last year, the Russian national champion, hence the outfit. Bit of an odd place to push it on. Maybe he feels that he can try and get rid of some of the big favourites. There are people in trouble. I think he fears riders like Robert Hesink if they manage to get to the finish.
Yeah, look, Hesink wasn't looking too comfortable there.
Nope. If you can kill him off now, why not? Oh, he's going for it.
This is the sort of guy, though, once he gets a bit of a gap and a bit of hesitancy behind, if they look at each other, you never know.
Is it Evans? Gilbert once again chasing. Well, I tell you what, Gilbert's going to have to be super strong, because this is the 3rd time he's had to chase on.
Yeah, he's been doing a lot of work. Maybe he just might dispense a little bit too much energy. I still think just behind there, they're not too far behind, but they are doing. Everybody's looking at each other about who's going to take up the chase.
Or is it Evans? Well, I thought it was Gilbert coming across. Let's have a look. Well, we can see Ivanov. Must be Evans then.
No, I don't think I think that's another further back. It's still at about Gilbert, I'm pretty certain. Yeah.
Yes, it is Gilbert. Well, Sergei, I wouldn't expect Philip to give you much of a hand at the moment. Well, he has. He's gone straight to the front. Wow, he's strong.
Yeah, still not much of a gap there. It's probably less 6 or 7 seconds at the moment.
And that is not Gilbert. My apologies, that is not Gilbert. That looks like Van den Broek. And I think he's been sent up there to do the sitting on, by the look of it. We're on the Keutenberg. This is the penultimate climb of the day. That is Jürgen van den Broek who's got up there.
And that's Evans.
And there's Cadel Evans coming across. So our apologies. We expected it to be Philippe Gilbert, and we were saying he's done an awful lot of work already. And he'd have to be super strong. Well, that gives you one answer. He's not bothered this time around. He's got somebody else to do it. Ivanov pushing on. Look at that. Look at that. That's a stinging little attack. Twiddling a little gear, really going for it. The others labouring under a bigger cog. Sergei Ivanov has decided he's going to really push hard now.
That is a hell of a move, really, when you think he was just away and then got caught by First Vandenbroek and then Evans, but they've not been able to follow him, and this just could be the move.
Right at the back, pushing real hard. Bram tanking. So there's still some non-climbers up in this group. Well, I'm not sure Ivanov is going to be able to get away. He's nailed his colours to the mast. And now Philippe Gilbert is making a move. I think he knows that Jürgen van den Broek is trying hard to get up to him. I think he's going to as well. Look, Ivanov on the steepest part of the climb twiddles a little gear and gets away, and Jürgen van den Broek has put his head down in the bigger gear, goes over the top. Kunigo, Frank Schleck, Kolobnev.
It's the same guys, isn't it, we've seen for the last few kilometres. They are the strongest guys who've just not quite got it together.
Who is the Garmin rider? Just so difficult to tell. It looked a bit like Ryder Heizedal going over the top. Evans did that work early on. He's being distanced by a group of riders, including Kunigo, Frank Schleck, who are chasing on after Sergei Ivanov. He's just going to hang in there, hang in there. I don't think he's got it. It's looks like the day is run for him. Philippe Gilbert now. Right at the front. Have they caught Ivanov? Yes, they have. They've caught Ivanov, and now Gilbert is kicking on. Maybe he thinks that Ivanov has spent all his powder.
Yeah, well, he's had a few good digs there, and he didn't quite get the gap that he needed, and he's actually now with people who are probably going to be maybe quicker than him on the final climb up to the Coburg in Cunego. So but it's a very strong move. Frank Schleck not interested in doing too much work, and more looking behind to see who's coming up behind.
Classy move by Kolobnev. Look, Kolobnev looks over his shoulder to see if Ivanov can stay with him, and watches Frank Schleck accelerate, and Kolobnev's gone with him. He's got his own agenda here. And Sergei Ivanov, the Russian champion, at the back here, wearing the #1 from last year's winner in the Amstel Gold Races, got himself onto the wheel of Damiano Cunego, but it was difficult.
Yeah, you can see behind now it has really splintered into several groups, riders on their own and little groups of 2s and 3s. The race full on now, but I do think that the winner's probably going to come from those riders in the front.
In that way at the moment, Johnny Hugeland is the rider you've just passed from Vacansoleil. Gilbert, oh, look at the gap he's got now. With 9 kilometers to go, Philippe Gilbert is riding away. Has he got it in the legs? Can they get to work together to bring him back? They're going to surely have to.
That's going to be the key question, is whether they're going to cooperate in the chase. And at the moment, they do look like they are cooperating. Even Frank Schleck maybe is looking behind and thinking that I don't need to work with these, because if I get to the bottom of the Coburg, that I'm going to get beaten by the riders like Cunego and Kolobnev.
Well, until Gilbert gets too big an advantage, then
still
of course
6 seconds.
Start work. Yeah, 6 seconds is the gap.
Frank Schleck is still working, so they are going to. It's going to be very difficult for Gilbert, unless he can get a bit more of a gap, maybe 15 seconds by the bottom of the Coburg. It's going to be very difficult for him to stay away.
Yeah, even then it could be difficult if somebody really goes hard on it. Last year, it was interesting that this year we saw Sergei Ivanov attack on the Keutenberg just then in a very small gear, just twiddling away, whereas last year on the finish in the Coburg, he just stuck it in a great big platter and off he went. Frank, of course, not working super hard because he knows possibly brother Andy might be coming up. Robert Hessink saying, come on, get through, do some work. Romain Kreuziger at the front now in the lime green of Liquid Gas. This is the chasing group, remember. There is, yep. As you said, Graham.
Just wonder now with what the gap is between these 4 and the chasing group behind, as to whether when they do catch Gilbert, whether there's a little bit of hesitancy and they start looking at each other, that who's going to take up the initiative from these 5.
I think that's going to be very, very difficult for Philippe Gilbert now. If you can recover before the Coburg, or We shall have to see. It's not too big a gap.
Still only about 10 seconds, Alex, maybe 10, 12 seconds to that chasing group, which is still probably 25 riders strong.
Ivanov begins to try and push on again. Katusha in a good situation here. 2 men in this group. Schleck forced to do a little bit of work. Kolobnev sits on his wheel. Looking quite as strong as he was a little bit ago, but both Ivanov and Kolobnev have suffered a little bit, I think.
Problem is, while they keep attacking each other like this, and there's that little bit of hesitancy, all the meanwhile, in the meantime, this group behind is probably getting closer and closer to them.
Kolobnev now pushes on. This is a very, very interesting set of tactics by Katusha. Is it a deliberate policy here, Graham, to just try and work the others over? Or
I think Kolobnev is just feeling good, and he's obviously looking at trying to win this race. I think he's seen the others, and as I just said, with the fact that there's these 5, there's going to be a little bit of tactics involved about who's going to chase, and you know, all it takes is at this stage of the race is for one rider to make the right move, and they hesitate behind, and suddenly he's got 15-20 seconds, and the race is all over.
Commisaire's bike very, very keen indeed to make sure the camera bike stays far enough ahead not to give them the tow. This is Frank Schleck from Saxo Bank. Philippe Gilbert, he's been chased down. Damiano Cunego looking like he's suffering a little bit. Sergei Ivanov doesn't look like he's suffering at all, although I'm pretty certain he was. I think Cunego's going to have to do a bit more work here.
Well, certainly, I would think he's possibly got the most to gain out of this group, having won the race, you know, a couple of years ago, and it finished. We do know does suit him.
Yasinka is doing his bit on the front now. They don't like the camera bike here.
Yeah, well, Andy Schleck is actually saying the camera's too close, so you're pacing back this group. You know, I've got my brother in front, and he's doing his utmost to make sure that motorbike gets out of the way.
Barredo is in this group I've just seen for Quick Step. He's the only Quick Step man I've seen up there. Kolobnev's pushing on. Oh, I wouldn't want to give this man much more gap than this. Alexander Kolobnev. First really came to prominence when he won a stage in Paris-Nice, what, 3 years ago now, where Tom Bonin, for all the world, thought he'd won the sprint finish, threw his arms up in the air, had forgotten that on the other side of the cars ahead of his group was Alexander Kolobnev, who had actually won the stage. But he's always in super strong form, a bit like Ivanov actually is always in good form. But Kolobnev is absolutely ripped most of the time. Here he is. 7 kilometers to go. That beautiful day here at Amstel Gold is going to make hay while the sun shines. Maybe a bit early in the season for that, but it's Kolobnev's got a decent gap now here. Alexander Kolobnev of Katusha is the man out by himself at the moment. There's a little bit of hesitation. Of course, Sergei Ivanov, the Russian champion, is just going to sit on the back. A fellow Russian and teammate is up ahead. The winner last year, Ivanov, is still in with a shout if the rest of them hunt him down.
Well, that's the idea, isn't it? Now, once you get to this sort of position, that's the strength in having, you know, more than one rider in the breakaway group, and they're in a very good position at the moment. And the gap's still not growing enough for my mind. I think it's probably still less than 10 seconds. I thought we've just seen it's 9 seconds to that second group.
Chris Horner in this group for Radio Shack. Good on him. Nice to see him in there. Carsten Krohn is in this group as well, second last year. He's trying desperately to move up. Krohn riding for BMC in the dark red. There's Cadell Evans still sitting on the back here. I think a little bit spent, to be honest. What is the gap? What is the gap?
Still saying 10 seconds, so that's going to be very difficult to take that all the way up to the finish in Coburg. But all it takes is a few moments of hesitation by that group behind, and to start looking at each other, and the gap will suddenly grow.
Completely committed though now, Alexander Kolobnev. He's just got to get in there and dig in. This is the chasing group. It's Cunego's at the front, Schleck just sitting behind. Now comes through to do some work. Gilbert doesn't go to the front yet. I'm not surprised. He's done a lot of work already. He will have to take some turns though. And right at the back, Sergei Ivanov, the race winner of last year in the Russian champions jersey. At the back of this group, this is the second group on the road, and what, 17 seconds or so, is Cadel Evans, the world champion. Well, if he'd been in super fine form, you certainly wouldn't want to let him attack just before the last climb, having seen what happened in the World Championships.
No, that's right, but I don't think he's in the same condition at this time of the year. I think Cadel Evans this year will be looking at the Tour de France. I think he really wants to make amends for the Tour of last year, so I think he's probably not anywhere near like tip-top condition.
Impressive ride by Katusha.
Yeah, well, we talk about them having such a strong team, and they're in a great position here to win the race. And
it's their two Russian riders, Kolobnev and Ivanov, who've animated the Katusha effort today. We haven't seen much of Pipo Pozzato. We did see him in the Italian champions jersey up towards the front. Joaquim Rodriguez, though, suffering off the back as soon as we got to the third to last climb, I think. Not in good shape.
This is a bigger group, though, is coming quickly down on the Canego-Gilbert group, so if they continue to go at this speed,
yeah, if they go at this speed, it's going to be real difficult to. And look at that, Kreuziger, I think, has just gone straight past.
I mean, what this is doing is also making it very difficult for Kolobnev to stay away too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been 5 kilometers for quite a while. It's a bit less than that now.
Yeah, I think the graphics guy's machine's broken.
Yeah.
Oh, 4.
Oh, there we go. So under the 4 kilometer to go banner. Oh, is it? It looked like Kreuziger could from overhead, but it's very, very difficult to tell. Liquigas had 2 men in that chasing group, Kreuziger and Nibali. Kreuziger, the taller of the 2 riders, and absolutely flying here. Looking as though they're getting across towards Alexander Kolobnev. That is a serious piece of downhill pedaling. On your right-hand screen, Liquigas chasing on after Katusha. No fear at all.
I think it's about 10 seconds. It's going to be very difficult for Kolobnev to stay away from this group now.
Not for the faint-hearted. This racing.
Still there. Ivanov's still well placed.
Yeah, he is third now. This group knows that everybody's going to track them down. Alexander Kolobnev.
Graphics guy's gone mad. It's gone back up to 4 kilometers now. So.
Forget that. Just let's wait for the incline.
Yeah, well, pretty soon we're in the town of Valkenburg now. I reckon there's 2.5 kilometers to go. Great Cycling Towns edition of the World Championships have been there in the past, and Jan Ras won.
And we've used it in the Tour as well. Kolobnev's completely and utterly committed now. He's in the big ring, has been in the big ring for such a long time.
Yeah, they're very close behind him. I'll be amazed if he's still got 10 seconds, but Ivanov there's doing as much as he can to try and slow this group down.
Yep. Hesink comes to the front. The Dutchman wants this one. He was third last year. He wants to make it different this time around, but you know, the more he pushes on at the front, the less chance he's got of I know he has to shut down the gap on Kolobnev, the less chance he's got of winning. He instigated the attack last year. He just ran out of steam. If this is what Ivanov wants, because this is exactly what happened with last year. Looking really good, I've got to say, for Sergei Ivanov at the moment, because he's now being dragged along by Robert Hesink, who really wants to win for the Dutchman. Oh, look, he's gone. Who is he working for then, I wonder?
Don't know.
Oscar Freire, maybe, who's still in this group.
Could still be there.
Yeah. Hesink really dragging things along. Gilbert once again being forced to do this. Roman Kreuziger in the lime green just behind him. We're going through the center of the town of Valkenburg now. And Alexander Kolobnev is going to come under the 1 kilometer to go banner very shortly. Here he is, and now it just ramps up.
This is going to hurt.
Oh, what's going through his mind at this particular point?
He's just going to keep his head down and keep going. But he's, yeah, I think he's even got 5 seconds now. I think it's going to be very, very, very difficult for him to stay. In fact, I think almost impossible. I have to wonder if Andy Schleck's still got it in the legs there. He's been looking comfortable over the last 20 or 30 kilometers. Just look at the crowd.
Fabulous, absolutely wonderful crowd, massive. Alexander Kolobnev, oh, they're right behind him. Kolobnev digs in. They're going to catch him. It's Philippe Gilbert who's doing all the work to track him down. They've got, what, 700 meters to go. And coming up behind him, it looks like Carlos Barredo. Barredo of Quick-Step. Pushing hard to get up there. It's Gilbert's going to track him down as well. Cunego is on his wheel. Is that Gasparotto in there? Surely not. Yes, it is Enrico Gasparotto of Astana. Roman Koisinger is up here as well. Andy Schleck gritting his teeth. He's a long way back.
Andy Schleck didn't look comfortable there at all.
Lambau credit now gets to the front. That's good for the favourites. Really pushing hard now. Looks like Gilbert's in really good condition at the moment. He's in the right position as well. He's being towed up towards the top. A Belgian team has towed a Belgian towards the front. It looks like it's going to be Philippe Gilbert who's going to take this. Nobody's responding. Gilbert, the Wallon, is going to take this one. It's not his home one, but it's near enough. We are in the end of the classic season. And Philippe Gilbert has just exploded away from everybody.
Tremendous attack.
That is the best one we've seen from him. Fabulous, fabulous finish by Philippe Gilbert. Enrico Gasparotto of Astana, and I think it's Heijendal of Garmin. That is a fabulous, fabulous finish by them as well. But all the favourites absolutely strung out down this climb. Horner finishes. Evans finishes. There is Frera once again.
Yeah, Andy Schleck there just off the back. Yeah, it did look like he was suffering at the bottom of that climb.
Chavanel comes over the line now. Well, that is fabulous.
Well, he did look fantastic, didn't he, over those last... he was covering nearly all the moves. There's Leo Van Vliet, an old friend of mine, the race director.
Van Vliet is a good job with Amstel Gold over the last few years. That's a terrific win for Philippe Gilbert. He's in super form. That was such a strong attack in the last 500 meters. What a brilliant win. Enrico Gasparotto congratulates Philippe Gilbert.
This is where sometimes it annoys me at the end of these races. I know people are doing their jobs, but they're almost just, you know, his own teammate can't even get to him, you know, with the security to sort of like congratulate him.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not coming in here, son.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, what makes you think you can come in here? End of a hard race. That was a terrific finish. And let's just talk us through this finish and just how good it was.
Well, we've seen it before on this this sort of race. It really there's no hiding place on this final climb. But when he accelerated, the gap was just there, and you instantly knew that he was going to win. Everybody else was sort of going at the same pace, but. Just a tremendous attack, and he's just reconfirmed the condition and the classics rider that he was at the end of last season. You know, he was almost unstoppable, wasn't he, at the end of last season? And I do like Gilbert as a rider as well. I think his style's just great to watch.
Yeah, very attacking, very aggressive, not a nasty rider. Lovely guy to speak to, very friendly, absolutely vehemently anti-doping, and has just steadily improved to the point where now he is one of the greatest classics riders in the world. Ze spartelde op de flanken van de Kouwberg en de Waal die was de sterkste. Well, a lightning piece of acceleration by the Walloon, the French-speaking Belgian, Philippe Gilbert. He's still got his home race of Liège-Bastogne-Liège to come. His hometown is at the bottom of one of the climbs. And a real classic sprinters victory. That was terrific. What a race for Philippe Gilbert. 45e
Amstel Gold Race.
Well, the crowds came out in masses in Valkenburg to welcome the Amstel Gold Race here. And I tell you what, the absence of some of the bigger favourites, Alejandro Valverde and Samuel Sanchez, for example, certainly hasn't detracted from this race, because it was an absolutely corking finish.
Yeah, and well, you have to sort of say that Philippe Gilbert has, the rides that he's been doing recently over the last year or two, that he may well have been nobody else who would have beaten him today anyway, and I certainly think he's a deserved winner.
Super deserved winner for Philippe Gilbert.
I think he's one of those riders in the future that's probably capable of winning any classic that there is, and there aren't too many of those riders around now.
Highstyle, in fact, got second. Well, that is, it shows how what good form he's in. He was in good form in the Tour of the Basque Country, and we were saying the Basque Country Tour, they often use them in preparation for these 3 races in this week.
Philippe Gilbert, gefeliciteerd. Ja, wat een machtige sprint op de Kouberg.
Ja, gemakkelijk.
Machtig bedoel ik.
How's your Flemish?
Ja, dat was mooi.
It's sort of not too bad. I can understand a few.
Ja, tot de laatste 60 kilometer. Ik heb niks gedaan. Gewoon blijven in het peloton. En dan, ik heb alles gegeven in de laatste 40 kilometer.
Just to give everything.
Yeah, I had to give everything in the last few kilometers.
Dan, ik heb even wachten, omdat het was 4 man achter mij. En ik denk dat was de beste beslissing. Ik kan in de afdaling nog stellen voor de sprint. En dan ik was
just had to get himself in the right place
op de kop op 500 meter.
For the sprint,
en dan,
ik
heb wachten tot 350. En dan alles geven zoals vorig jaar. Ik won nog de sprint hier
and then
voor de 4e plaats. Vandaag was voor de overwinning. Dat is
you're totally committed at that point. I've got to say, actually, though, he got a terrific lead out from the guy from Landbouw credit, did he not?
He did. Wanneer besef je dat het genoeg was, dat het goed was voor de overwinning?
By Philippe Gilbert, you never know. A terrific win, a massively good sprint by this man here, Philippe Gilbert. He takes the first of the Ardennes Classics. Well, the fact that a number of riders couldn't get here hasn't detracted from the race at all, and there was some talk as late as this morning, in fact, that they wouldn't be able to hold the event, they wouldn't be able to have the television for the event because the choppers wouldn't be able to get up with this Icelandic ash cloud coming in. But all is well, and we have witnessed a fantastic bit of racing by Philippe Gilbert. Big loser, one of the big losers, Cadel Evans, not in such great form, but did an awful lot of work, maybe for Carsten Krud. Terrific acceleration. Flèche on Wednesday. We move back into Belgium. 1400 CET is the time, and we don't know whether Sean will be back. If not, maybe Greg will be. Who knows? Liège, Bastogne-Liège. 1400 CET once again, and that's Sunday 25th of this month, and that'll round out the Classics season. Tour of Turkey's up next, if you're watching on British International. Got a fantastic win for Philippe Gilbert here in the Amstel Gold, and a wonderful golden sunlight for him. Now he wins his own weight in beer, and I'm sure he'll drink some of it tonight. Well, I've had a really good day today, and I'm sure you have as well, Greg.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's been good.
Right, well, we'll see you again for Flèche Wallonne on Wednesday.